How does the tech that runs our world really work? We break it down to its fundamental truths. This is First Principles.
You're in the back of a rideshare, watching the map on your phone, the little car icon crawling toward your destination. You have 15% battery left. You're texting a friend, letting them know you're 5 minutes out. 10%, the driver makes a wrong turn. You open the map again, your thumb hovering over the button to reroute. 7%, a notification pops up, a work email. You swipe it away. 4%, you can feel a tiny knot of anxiety tightening in your chest. The screen dims automatically. 3%, finally you see the familiar building. You send one last text, here. 2%. You hop out, walk inside, and the first thing you do before taking off your jacket before saying hello is find an outlet and plug your phone in. You see the little lightning bolt appear. You feel a wave of relief. We think we're just filling a tank. But how does this actually work? What simple rules make it possible for a solid pocket-sized slab to capture and release something as intangible as energy? Today on First Principles, we're opening the black box that powers our entire modern world, the battery. That feeling, that low-grade hum of anxiety when your battery icon turns red, is a uniquely modern affliction. It's a testament to how deeply these little power sources are woven into the fabric of our lives. The battery has performed a quiet miracle. It has untethered us. It has severed the cord. Think about the world it has created. A construction worker on the 40th floor of a skyscraper, using a cordless drill, powered by a dense brick of lithium-ion cells. A photographer in the middle of a national park, capturing a landscape with a digital camera, its sensor and screen running on a slim, rechargeable pack. An airplane passenger, 30,000 feet in the air, typing away on a laptop, completely disconnected from any grid, yet connected to their work, their life, all through the stored potential in a flat sheet of chemicals beneath the keyboard. This freedom is so profound, so complete, that we've come to take it for granted. The battery is the unsung hero of the digital revolution. Without it, the smartphone is just a tiny, useless brick of glass and metal. The laptop is a desktop computer. The electric car is a sculpture. The very idea of mobile computing, of information and power anywhere, anytime, is predicated entirely on our ability to solve one fundamental problem: how to put lightning in a bottle. We experience this solution as something effortless. We drain it, we fill it. It feels as simple as pouring water into a glass. When you plug your phone into the wall, the animation on the screen shows a battery icon, literally filling up from the bottom. Like a measuring cup, this visual metaphor is so powerful that it has shaped our collective understanding of how it works. We believe, on some intuitive level, that we are pumping a substance called electricity out of the wall and into a storage tank inside our device. And when we use our phone, we imagine that tank slowly draining until it's empty. But that image, as intuitive as it feels, is fundamentally wrong. A battery doesn't store electricity at all, and the story of what it actually does is far more interesting. It's a story of chemistry, of tension, and of a carefully controlled microscopic storm. To understand the battery, we first need to understand the world before it, a world that was, in a word, tethered. For most of human history, power was inseparable from its source. If you wanted to grind grain, you had to build your mill next to a river. The power of the moving water was right there, immediate and potent, but you couldn't pack it up and take it with you. If you wanted to run a factory, you needed a massive steam engine on site, boiling water with coal, turning a huge flywheel that drove belts and pulleys snaking through the building. Power was a place. It was static. Even the dawn of the electrical age didn't change this fundamental reality. In the late 19th century, magnificent power stations, like the ones designed by Edison and Tesla, could generate enormous amounts of electricity. They could light up entire cities, power streetcars, and run massive motors. But that electricity had to be used the instant it was generated. It flowed out through a vast network of wires, did its work, and was gone. There was no buffer, no reserve. Electricity was a river constantly flowing. If you wanted a drink, you had to go to the river's edge. You couldn't take a bucket of it home. The problem was maddening. Scientists and inventors had unlocked this incredible, invisible force, but they hadn't figured out how to make it portable. How could you create a small, self-contained source of electrical current? The first clue came not from a physicist or an engineer, but from an Italian biologist named Luigi Galvani in the 1780s. The story is a bit of a science legend. Galvani was dissecting a frog on a brass hook. When his steel scalpel accidentally touched the hook, the frog's legs, long since dead, twitched violently. It was shocking. It seemed like he had brought the creature back to life. Galvani believed he had discovered a new form of energy, an animal electricity inherent in living tissue. He thought the life force itself was electrical. It was a fascinating, romantic idea, but it was wrong. And another Italian scientist, Alessandro Volta, knew it. Volta was skeptical. He suspected the electricity wasn't coming from the frog, but from the metals. He hypothesized that the frog's body, its fluids, was simply conducting a current generated by the two different metals, the brass hook and the steel scalpel, coming into contact. To prove it, he set out to build an artificial frog. He removed the animal from the equation entirely. He took two different metals, zinc and copper, and separated them with a piece of cardboard soaked in salt water, a stand-in for the frog's bodily fluids. And when he stacked these units one on top of the other, a disc of zinc, a wet piece of cardboard, a disc of copper, repeated over and over, he created a continuous, steady electrical current. He had invented the voltaic pile. It was the world's first true battery. It was a monumental breakthrough. Volta had proven that electricity could be generated chemically, on demand, without any giant generators or steam engines. He had taken the river of electricity and created a spring. But it wasn't a perfect solution. The first batteries were weak, they didn't last long, and they weren't rechargeable. They were a brilliant proof of concept, but the fundamental challenge remained. How do you create a durable, dense, and reusable source of portable power? The question would occupy scientists for another 2 centuries, leading to a slow, steady evolution of battery technology. But the core principle, the secret that Volta stumbled upon with his stack of metals, remains the absolute foundation of every single battery in your life today. So let's open the box. Let's look inside that lithium-ion battery in your smartphone. The common misconception, the one suggested by the filling up icon, is that a battery is like a bucket. We pour electrons into it from the wall socket, and they sit there until we need them. Then, when we turn our phone on, we tip the bucket over, and the electrons flow out, powering the device. It's a simple, mechanical picture. But it's not what happens at all. The battery is not a passive container. It is a machine, a tiny, elegant chemical machine with 3 critical parts. To understand it, we're going to use an analogy. Imagine a large, divided ballroom. On the left side of the ballroom, you have a crowd of extremely energetic dancers. Let's call them the lithium atoms. Each one is holding a balloon, and they are desperate to get rid of it. That balloon represents an electron. They feel unstable, overcaffeinated, and want nothing more than to hand off their balloon. This side of the ballroom is called the anode. It's the negative side of the battery. On the right side of the ballroom, there's another crowd of dancers. Let's call them the cobalt oxide molecules. They are the exact opposite. They feel incomplete. They are desperate to get a balloon. They see all those balloons on the other side and desperately want one. This side of the ballroom is called the cathode. It's the positive side of the battery. Now, in between these two passionate crowds is a very special kind of wall. Think of it as a porous barrier with a very strict bouncer. This wall is the separator. It has tiny holes in it, but the bouncer has a rule. The dancers themselves can pass through the holes, but the balloons absolutely cannot. The balloons, our electrons, are forbidden from passing directly through the middle. So you have this incredible tension. The anode dancers on the left want to get rid of their balloons. The cathode dancers on the right want to grab them. There is a powerful, fundamental desire for these two sides to interact. This stored desire, this chemical tension, is the energy in the battery. A fully charged battery is a ballroom where the anode side is packed with dancers holding balloons, and the cathode side is full of dancers with empty hands, all waiting. The system is bursting with potential energy, but not. King is flowing yet, it's a paused waterfall. So how do we get the party started? How do we unleash this energy? We have to provide a different path for the balloons. We need to build a hallway that goes around the outside of the ballroom, from the anode side to the cathode side. This external hallway is the circuit. It's your phone's processor, its screen, its speaker. When you turn your phone on, you are opening the doors to this external hallway. The moment that path exists, the balloons, the electrons, do exactly what they've been wanting to do all along. They can't go through the wall in the middle, so they rush out of the anode into the hallway you've just opened. They stream through the circuits of your phone, and their movement, their flow, is what we call electricity. This flow of electrons is what lights up your screen, processes your commands, and sends your texts. After they've done their work, after they've raced through the complex corridors of your phone's electronics, they finally arrive at the other side of the ballroom. The cathode, where the waiting dancers eagerly grab them. The anode dancers have gotten rid of their balloons. The cathode dancers have received them, and everyone is happy. But there's one more crucial piece to this puzzle. What about the dancers themselves? If all the balloons, the electrons, leave the anode and go to the cathode, the anode side would build up a strong positive charge, and the cathode side would build up a strong negative charge. This imbalance would almost instantly stop the flow. The universe craves balance. You can't just have a massive movement of negative charge without something to counteract it. This is where the magic of the middle part of the battery comes in. That special wall, the separator, is sitting in a chemical soup called the electrolyte. Remember our bouncer? He wouldn't let the balloons pass through, but he will let the dancers themselves pass through. As soon as an electron balloon leaves the anode and goes into the external circuit, one of the now balloonless lithium dancers, which is now a positively charged lithium ion, is allowed to travel directly through the separator and the electrolyte to the cathode side. For every electron that takes the long way around through your phone, a positive ion takes the shortcut through the middle of the battery. This internal flow of ions perfectly balances the external flow of electrons, keeping the whole system electrically neutral and allowing the current to flow continuously. The electrolyte is the crucial internal medium that completes the circuit, ensuring that charge stays balanced. Without it, the battery would stop working in a fraction of a second. So let's recap the whole process. A charged battery is a state of engineered tension. You have an anode material, like lithium, that is desperate to give away electrons, and a cathode material, like cobalt oxide, that is desperate to accept them. They are kept apart by a separator. When you connect your device, you create an external path. The electrons then rush from the anode through your device, powering it, to the cathode. This is electricity. Simultaneously, to keep the charge balanced, positive ions travel from the anode through the electrolyte and separator to the cathode. The battery dies when most of the dancers on the anode side have gotten rid of their balloons and move over to the cathode side. The tension is gone. The two sides have reached equilibrium. The ballroom is now just one big, happy, mixed crowd. There is no more potential, no more desire for electrons to flow. The waterfall has reached the bottom. So when your battery is dead, it's not empty. All the ingredients are still there. They're just in a different configuration. They're in a relaxed, low-energy state. This brings us to the real aha moment, the part of the process that truly feels like modern magic: recharging. If a dead battery isn't empty, but just chemically relaxed, then what are we doing when we plug it into the wall? We are not filling it up, we are forcibly resetting the ballroom. The charger acts like a powerful pump. It applies an external voltage, effectively grabbing the balloons, the electrons, from the cathode and pushing them, against their will, back along the external circuit to the anode. At the same time, it yanks the dancers, the lithium ions, away from the cathode and shoves them back through the electrolyte to the anode side. We are using energy from the wall to run the entire chemical reaction in reverse. We are pushing the dancers and their balloons back to their starting positions, separating them once again, and recreating that state of high tension, high potential energy. We are pumping the water back up to the top of the waterfall, ready for it to flow again. This is why recharging takes time. You are physically moving atoms and electrons, forcing a chemical change inside a solid object. It's also why batteries don't last forever. Every time you charge and discharge the battery, it's not a perfectly clean process. A few of the dancers get lost, a bit of the structure on the cathode side gets damaged. Over hundreds or thousands of cycles, these small imperfections add up. The battery slowly loses its ability to hold a full charge, to recreate that perfect state of tension. The maximum capacity degrades. The waterfall gets a little bit smaller each time you pump the water back up. Thinking about a battery this way, as a reversible chemical reaction rather than a simple container, completely changes our relationship with it. It's not a passive tank. It's an active, dynamic chemical engine, constantly converting chemical energy into electrical energy, and then, when we charge it, converting electrical energy back into chemical energy. Now that we understand the fundamental mechanism, the dance of ions and electrons, we can address the most important and perhaps least appreciated aspect of modern batteries. It's the unseen giant that made the mobile revolution possible: energy density. Energy density is simply the amount of energy you can store in a given amount of space or weight. Early batteries, like the lead-acid batteries still used in cars today, have very low energy density. They are incredibly heavy and bulky for the amount of power they provide. Using our ballroom analogy, the dancers in a lead-acid battery are heavy, slow, and don't have that much energy to give. You need a colossal ballroom and a huge number of these lazy dancers to generate a useful amount of power. For decades, this was the limiting factor. You could make a portable radio, but a portable computer seemed like science fiction. The power source would have been larger than the computer itself. The search was on for better materials, lighter, more energetic dancers for our chemical ballroom. Scientists worked their way up the periodic table. They developed nickel-cadmium batteries, then nickel-metal hydride. Each was an improvement, a step forward in energy density. But the real breakthrough, the one that truly untethered us, came from understanding the unique properties of a very special element: lithium. Lithium is the third element in the periodic table. It's the lightest of all solid metals. It has 3 protons and, in its neutral state, 3 electrons. 2 of those electrons are tucked in a stable inner shell, but there's one single, lonely electron in its outermost shell. And due to the laws of quantum mechanics, lithium is profoundly, almost violently, eager to get rid of that one outer electron. It is the most energetic, hypercaffeinated, balloon-hating dancer you can possibly imagine. In the 1970s and 80s, scientists like M. Stanley Whittingham, John Goodenough, and Akira Yoshino pioneered the work that would eventually lead to the rechargeable lithium-ion battery. They figured out how to build a safe and stable system that could harness the incredible electrochemical potential of lithium. They created an anode made of graphite that could safely house the lithium ions and their electrons, and they developed cathode materials, like cobalt oxide, that were the perfect hungry partners for them. The result was a battery with an energy density that blew everything else away. A lithium-ion battery could store 2 to 3 times more energy per pound than the best nickel-based batteries that came before it. This was the quantum leap. Suddenly, you could build a power source that was small enough and light enough to fit inside a phone, a laptop, or even a car, and still have it run for hours. This breakthrough, which earned those 3 scientists the 2019 Nobel Prize in Chemistry, is not an exaggeration to say, built the modern world. Every smartphone, every tablet, every laptop, every electric vehicle, every drone, every piece of portable electronics you own is a direct descendant of their work. The unseen giant is not just clever engineering. It is the fundamental quantum mechanical properties of the lithium atom itself. The magic isn't that we built a better box, it's that we found a much better fuel to put inside it. So we've journeyed from the seemingly magical act of plugging in a phone to the intricate atomic dance happening inside that silent slab of metal and chemicals. We started with the simple but wrong idea of a tank being filled with electricity. We replaced it with a far more elegant truth. A battery is not a container, but a machine that masterfully controls a reversible chemical reaction. It creates a state of tension, a deep chemical desire for electrons to move, and then provides an external path for them to do so, creating the flow we call electricity. We learned that recharging is simply the act of using external power to force that chemical reaction to run in reverse, resetting the tension for the next use. And finally, we discovered that the secret to our long-lasting, lightweight devices isn't just clever design, but the raw, fundamental chemical energy locked inside the element lithium, the most electrochemically generous element on the periodic table. Understanding this journey from first principles matters. It reminds us that the most transformative technologies are often not about inventing something entirely new out of thin air, but about gaining a deeper understanding of the fundamental properties of the universe and then engineering clever ways to harness them. The battery isn't magic. It is a monument to our mastery of chemistry. It is a controlled and repeatable echo of the lightning storm that fascinated our ancestors, captured, tamed, and placed directly into the palm of our hand. Every time you pick up your phone, you are holding a tiny, pocket-sized, paused chemical river, a universe of controlled tension waiting for the command to flow.
You've been listening to First Principles. Until next time, stay curious.